Today we will begin the Maimer Mimana Afar Yaakov. Until now, most of the Maimarim that we're learning is from the year Tafshin Yud Aleph, 1951. The first year of the Rebbe's Nesius. We've gone in order, all the Maimarim from Yud Shvat. We learned already the Maimer from Yud Beis Tammuz Tafshin Yud Aleph. There's quite a long break until the next Maimer, which is Shabbos Mevarchim Av. So in the meantime, we're going to learn a Maimer from Tafshin Yud Beis 1952, also a Yud Beis Tammuz Maimer. Now this Maimer is based on a pasuk in Parshas Balak, this week's Parsha, and then goes on to explain concepts which are connected to the Yom Tov of Yud Beis Tammuz. The pasuk says in the Nevuah of Bilam, Mimana Afar Yaakov umispar Esroi Yisrael. When Bilam is talking about the praises of the Jewish people, in his Nevuah, in his prophecy, he says, Mimana, who can count or who counts? Afar Yaakov, the earth of Jacob, umispar, and who can count Esroi Yisrael? Either Roiva comes from the word Arba, which means four, the four parts, or Roiva means a quarter. Either way, who can count either four or a quarter of Israel? Now both the word mana and the word mispar mean to count, but they're two different words that connect to counting. And so the Rebbe says in the Maimer that here we see that the word mana is specifically connected to the Afar, to the earth, but also specifically to the Jewish people as they are on the level of Yaakov, of Jacob. And the word mispar, which is using the word for count as mispar, is connected to roiva, to the four or quarter, but specifically to the level of Yisrael, of Israel. What's the connection between Mana and Yaakov and Mispar and Yisrael? That's the first question that Rebbe asks. And the second question is a more general question. Why are we praising the Jewish people? And this is even though it's said by Bilam, but it was said as an nevuah, it was a prophecy. It was words that it was being given from Hashem. Why are we praising the Jewish people with the fact that our number is beyond number? That the abundance is so great that it's beyond number. Why is that the praise? We know that the Torah tells us, Ki atem ha'ma'at mikol ha'amim. The greatness of the Jewish people has to do with not us being large, but with us being a minority of all the nations. Why are we talking then about Mimana and Mispar, about the number that is beyond number? So in order to understand this, the Rebbe continues by explaining a concept which connects to the Yom Tov of Yud Beis Tammuz, and in general to the days, not just of Yud Beis Tammuz, but from the beginning of Tammuz, and especially Gimel Tammuz throughout Yud Beis Tammuz, and which connects to the idea of bitachon, of trust in Hashem, and explains the mitzvah of bitachon, but also in a way of numbers, of amounts. How much is the amount of bitachon? As we'll see, that the pasuk says, bitchu v'Hashem adei ad. Trust in Hashem, the trust and faith that we have to have in Hashem has to be adei ad, till, which means till beyond an amount. Now this Maimer is actually a very powerful Maimer that the Rebbe is basing it on. A Maimer that was said by the Frierdiker Rebbe. And what's special about it, this was a Maimer that was said in prison. We know that in the days that were connected to the arrest and the liberation of the Frierdiker Rebbe, which was 90 years ago from this year, in the year Taf Reish Pei Zayin, 1927, during that time, there's a lot of Maimarim that are connected, that the Frierdiker Rebbe said in connection to his liberation. But there are two Maimarim specifically that were said before the liberation, before Yud Beis Tammuz. One of them is a Maimer Gefen Mi Mitzrayim Tasiya, which is a maimer based on the fact that Hashem makes the Jewish people just like grapes, that they are taken from one place to the other, and through that they become greater, through that they become better and more special, more praiseworthy. So also the Jewish people, through the fact that Hashem takes us from one place to another, takes us in exile, it doesn't cause a defect. It doesn't cause something negative. On the contrary, it causes us to become even greater. This Maimer, the Rebbe, the Frierdiker Rebbe, said on the Shabbos between Gimel and Yud Beis Tammuz, the Shabbos that he spent in Kostroma, in exile in Kostroma. Because at the end he was freed after 1 week, so he spent one Shabbos in Kostroma, and on that Shabbos he said this specific Maimer. The other Maimer is something even more powerful perhaps, which was said by the Frierdiker Rebbe while he was in prison. And that was on Thursday, the first day of Rosh Chodesh Tammuz. As we know, on Gimel Tammuz, the 3rd of Tammuz, which was on a Sunday, the previous Rebbe was released from prison. Before that, on Thursday, the first day of Rosh Chodesh Tammuz, they called him and they said, you're free to go, but you have to go to exile in Kostroma for 3 years, which later on ended up being 1 week. But you have to travel tonight, Thursday night. And the Frierdiker Rebbe asked them, when will I arrive? They said Shabbos morning. And the Frierdiker Rebbe said, Shabbos, I'm not traveling. So he said to them, well then you won't be able to leave now. You'll have to continue in prison until we decide to release you. And it could be we'll change our minds and decide not to release you. To the extent that one of the officers there got very angry and shouted, I promise that I will make sure personally that you won't come out of here alive if you don't leave now. Because they very much wanted him to travel on Shabbos. And the Frierdiker Rebbe said, I don't care, I'll be in prison, whatever happens, Shabbos I'm not traveling. And that's what happened. So it was that Thursday. I don't know whether it was before this happened or after this happened, but that Thursday apparently there was a Jew in the cell together with the Frierdiker Rebbe, and the Frierdiker Rebbe said a Maimer, and later the Frierdiker Rebbe himself wrote the Maimer. The Maimer is based on the pasuk in Tehillim, but the pasuk that we say in Hallel. That day was Rosh Chodesh when we say Hallel. Min ha-meitzar karasi ka, onani v'merchav ka. Min ha-meitzar means from the constraints, from a tight situation. Karasi ka, I call out to Hashem. Anani v'merchav ka, and Hashem answers me in a broad situation. Which means that as a result of my calling out from Hashem from the depths of a tight situation, Hashem answered me in a broad situation. And the Frierdiker Rebbe continued to explain the idea that when a person finds themselves in a tight situation, and the Frierdiker Rebbe went on to enumerate different types of tight situations that a person can be in. Whether it's a health situation, one is sick, or whether a person is sitting in prison, or whether a person is being persecuted by his enemies, and he feels in a tight situation, and that causes him to call out to Hashem in davening. The tightness of the situation, the fact that he feels in a tight situation, causes him to call out to Hashem in davening, and Hashem answers him b'merchav in a situation where Hashem opens it up. But the Frierdiker Rebbe says there that what is the feeling of the person? What emotional feeling does a person have at that time when he calls out to Hashem, when he davens to Hashem? It's a feeling of trust and bitachon and faith that Hashem will help him. And that's why the words that it says is karasi ka, yudke. We know that Hashem is called Havaya, yudke vavke. That's the full name of Hashem. And yet, over here we don't say karasi la Havaya, even though I'm calling out to Hashem. We say karasi ka. Karasi ka anani b'merchav ka. And the Frierdiker Rebbe connects this with the fact that with regards to bitachon, to trust in Hashem, it says bitchu ba'avaya, Adei ad ki v'ka Hashem tzurei lamim. That a person should trust in Hashem. Adei ad, till the level of ad. Why? What causes that trust? What gives the person that feeling of trust? Ki v'yudke ki v'ka Hashem tzurei lamim. Because with ka, yudke, that's where Hashem is tzurei lamim, the rock of all the worlds. What causes a person's level of bitachon to the ultimate level of adei ad, which is where bitachon is supposed to be? That comes through the name Yudke. So that's where it's connected to a person crying out with bitachon to Hashem. We say over there also Yudke. That's the idea. Now, how does that come, and why is that? So the Frierdiker Rebbe explains the following. Bitachon, first of all, we know that this trust in Hashem is something which is what causes a person to go out min ha-meitzar al ha-merchav, from a situation of constraints, from a tight situation to go out to a broad situation where everything is open. Which means a person goes out of his own limitations, his own mitzrayim, as a result of his trust and faith in Hashem. What causes and what brings a person to faith in Hashem? So the Rebbe tells us the following. A person's faith in Hashem it comes as a result of the fact that Hashem loves us. When we know that Hashem loves us, that makes me, because I know Hashem loves me, that makes me trust in Him. That He'll for sure take me out of my tough situation and bring me to the ultimate open and broad situation and give me everything that I need. What causes that feeling of that connection that Hashem loves me? The simple feeling of it is my love for Hashem also causes me to feel Hashem's love for me. It's a mirror image. I love Hashem, and therefore I feel and I realize also that Hashem loves me. That's still not the ultimate bitachon when it comes out of love. A higher level of bitachon is when it comes out of an intellectual understanding. How is this? So the Rebbe explains it with a mashal, an analogy from a person down here. If I know that my friend, another person, loves me and therefore he's going to do everything good for me, he's going to help me out, that love is very limited. Why does the person love me? Because I'm in a situation, because of actions that I do, because of something that I am, etc., which causes him to love me. What's going to happen if I'm not in that same situation? What's going to happen if at this moment I'm going to do the opposite of what caused the love, or I'm going to become something which is the opposite of what causes the love? Not only will the love become weakened, not only will the love become less, but it can go to the opposite, to the idea of hate. Love, in other words, is an emotion. An emotion is caused by a certain situation that I'm in at the moment. An emotion, just like there's one emotion, there's an opposite emotion which is the opposite of it. And the same thing is with a person's connection to Hashem. If it comes from love, but that means it's an emotion called chesed, which is love, but there's an opposite emotion of gvura. So right now, it's true, I love Hashem, I know that Hashem loves me, and therefore I have 100% trust and faith that He's going to take me out of my tough situation and bring me and give me everything I need. But there's an opposite to it also. There's another emotion, the opposite emotion of gvura, which could make me feel that I'm unworthy or that I'm not going to be able to get this. So it's not a 100% certain trust. What about a trust that comes from moichin, from intellect? In the example of a person and another person, when the connection and the love of one person to another comes as a result of an understanding, of an intellectual connection, then that's something which is stronger because it doesn't change as easily. It's not just emotions, which emotions can go from one side to the other very easily. Why? Because even if I do something wrong, the person will intellectually understand that there's a reason for what I did. There's a rule, al tadin es chavercha ad shetagia limkoymai. Don't judge another person until you're in his place. And therefore, even though the person may see that I act in a way that's wrong, it doesn't necessarily cause a weakening in his love for me. And certainly not the opposite of love, because he uses his mind to realize, wait, I don't understand, and recognize all the reasons for this person's situation. I haven't put myself yet in this person's shoes, and therefore I can judge him favorably. And the same thing is when my love to Hashem comes from a moichin, it's an intellectually induced love, then it's something which is stronger, it's more powerful. However, the Rebbe says even that is not for sure, it's not as powerful, it's not 100% powerful, because even intellect, there could come a reason intellectually why the love shouldn't be here anymore. There's a deeper love which comes from the essence. This is the way it is, and therefore nothing can ever change it. And Mitzvah Hashem, tomorrow we'll continue to learn about that.